I love Nintendo. Nintendo's a great company, but nobody's perfect. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, 10 Nintendo mistakes they want you to forget. Starting off at number 10 is the most amazing, silly idea I think anybody can ever remember: Nintendo's Creators Program. Now, if you just wanted to show people your Nintendo game footage, you know, the footage of you playing a game by Nintendo that more or less spreads the word of Nintendo, don't tell me that Let's Plays are anything other than free marketing for the game company, because they're not. Nintendo decided they didn't want people to do that. To post their content or live stream, you had to sign up with them, and for whatever reason, they decided they didn't want partners to live stream their games. I don't know, the entire Creators Program was just goofy. On top of all that, if you did happen to get into their Creators Program, they took 30% of your money. They were like, if people are playing our games, we're making money off of it, so there. Now, it's not like no other publisher has ever done anything like this, but it's so dumb. All of this stuff generally functions as free promotion for the games. I know some people watch entire games and feel like they don't have to play them, but it's not a lot. Most people would rather play a game. I mean, call me crazy, but yeah, I am never gonna forget. Like, it's such a labyrinthian, weird program, too. Most people who I've talked to who had to deal with it at some point were incredibly confused by it. At number 9, the Wii U. Hey, remember that thing that explained what the Wii U was and everybody was much more confused by it than, probably anything Nintendo's ever done? As somebody who likes Nintendo and is generally regarded as a video game person, the amount of questions I received about what the Wii U even was astounding. And I couldn't necessarily answer them without a shadow of a doubt. Was it an add-on? Was it some kind of upgraded version of the Wii? Not naming it the Wii 2 was basically the dumbest possible move they could make, because people just assumed it wasn't a new console, and so people didn't buy it. I mean, some people bought it, but not a lot of people relative to how many people bought the Wii, and it failed. At the time, Satoru Iwata, the Nintendo boss, took a pay cut voluntarily because of the performance of the Wii U. At number 8, the NES Classic debacle. Now, the official stance by Nintendo has always been that the Nintendo Classic was in such high demand that they just couldn't keep up, blah blah blah. I've never bought it personally. The NES Classic is not a really difficult thing to manufacture, and you could easily outsource manufacturing to something. But instead, they discontinued it after they sold 2.3 million units on this supposedly limited edition stocking stuffer, which they brought back in another limited run and caused another amount of chaos and probably made tons of money. $60 for probably about $15-20 worth of hardware tops. And don't get me wrong, it's cool, I like it. It's not something I'm gonna complain about. But they've always played dumb with this, as though it's somehow just a mistake that they caused the most amount of hype for a little $60 retro system that anyone ever has. I mean, they deliberately created a situation where people were scalping these. They still are. You can find them for $160 on Amazon right now. But I mean, it created tons of hype and they sold out super fast, so there's no chance they didn't make their money. And at number 7, Virtual Boy. I could stop there. That's all that really needs to be said. As soon as you think of the Virtual Boy, if you can remember it, you know what I mean. It was dumb. It was a mistake. It was bad. It was not virtual. It was a few parallax scrolling planes with red and black color that definitely hurt your damn eyes. The Virtual Boy made me so much more sick than VR does. And it wasn't really that good. Then there was Mario Tennis, which was, compared to what Mario Tennis is now, basically a tech demo. The Virtual Boy is probably the only Nintendo product I've ever genuinely hated. When I bought it, I felt like it was a huge waste of money. I could have just bought some Super Nintendo games, but I didn't. I saved up money to buy the Virtual Boy, and I still feel shortchanged by it. Right now, I'm genuinely angry. At number 6, friend codes. Now, I'm not going to say this is the worst thing you've ever seen in your life, but it's also just strange. They decided that it must be less simple to use screen names than to have a friend code system. How do we know this? There was a lot of design documents for the Wii that were leaked that noted some of the downfalls by Nintendo's perspective of using screen names rather than codes. I'll just read it verbatim because it's strange. At first, there were opinions that instead of 12-digit numbers, a freely chosen screen name would be better. Problems with using screen names include, there's a high probability of duplicate screen names. When this happens, multiple re-entries are required. Conflicts with the simple principle. It's possible to guess someone's screen name by trying different variations of their actual name. Conflicts with the comfortable principle. I'm going to go ahead and say this. A 12-digit number conflicts with the simple principle significantly more, and I have never even a single time tried to find my friends using their real name online. No one except for public figures uses their real name. They use something short and memorable to give to their friends if they want to play games with their friends. A 12-digit number is not simple, and it doesn't make me any more comfortable. It makes it feel like I will not talk to anyone ever. At number 5, and this is a really beefy one, Joy-Con drifting. Now, the Joy-Cons are actually some of the best controllers Nintendo has done. They're reminiscent of the old school Nintendo controller, albeit a bit smaller, with an analog stick and 4 buttons instead of 2. It also has the capacity for L and R buttons, if indeed a game that just uses a single Joy-Con allows you to do that. But those analog sticks, they aren't great. Tons and tons of people with Joy-Cons have found that it loses its position and that the Joy-Con itself will drift, meaning it'll go off slightly to the side, so your standing position is actually a very slight directional position. And I don't need to tell you why that sucks. To have it so that you're just always moving in a direction sucks. And while the issue isn't quite as prominent as it was, I think maybe some minor changes have been implemented, there is still Joy-Con drift in 2020. At number 4, 3DS's launch price, which was $250, which is hilarious. Like, as cool as the 3DS was, it was not worth $250. That's a lot for a handheld. The Nintendo Switch's manufacturer's suggested retail price is $299, $50 more. The 3DS was not comparable to the Nintendo Switch, even by the standards of the Nintendo console that was out at the time, the Wii. The Switch is a full-blown console, and yet a handheld. The 3DS was very obviously a huge downgrade from the Wii. The Nintendo Switch Lite, which is only a handheld but still does everything the Switch does, meaning it has the power of a full console, is $199, and was at launch. And that's a fair price, honestly, if you consider how powerful it is anyways, compared to every handheld that came before it. The 3DS was not that kind of jump. And 5 months after launch, Nintendo lowered the price to $170 because they knew people were pissed. That entire 5 months was just loaded with complaining, and rightfully so. They think people don't remember, too, but we do. At number 3 is the 1993 Super Mario Bros. Movie. Now, before you go ahead and think that I'm going to ream this thing as only bad, I want to make sure that it's understood that it's bad in a good way. However, Nintendo does not want people to remember this movie. They make no effort to call back to it in any product, any marketing, any talks, and it's pretty clear that they just think it's bad. Because it kinda is bad. It was a flop. They spent $48 million making it, and it didn't even make them half of that in the box office. And it took some weird liberties with the Mario mythos that made it very confusing, to be frank. But it is perhaps one of the strangest things you will ever watch, and for whatever reason, I enjoy it. Keeping in mind I don't necessarily enjoy it as a Mario product, but more as a failed Mario product. Because I don't know what anyone was thinking when they were making this, and it's glorious. And number 2 is the 64DD. With a name that sounds like an extremely large bra, the 64DD was a disk drive expansion for the Nintendo 64. Basically, the 64DD was a thing that was going to allow everybody to do all of this really cool stuff that involved having write access to the disk drive. The 64DD would have allowed you to create characters to use in your games and record movies of the games to watch back later. Fairly innovative innovative ideas for the 1990s that we have actually gone in the direction of. However, the thing was just nearly impossible to realize. It cost tons of money to make, and it never really caught on in Japan, so they didn't bother releasing it anywhere else. Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time was originally only being developed for the 64DD, and they had to go ahead and scrap that idea because there was no chance they were going to sell a bunch of 64DDs for Zelda. Later on, the quote-unquote Master Quest version of the game was released to the GameCube, which was essentially the 64DD game with alternate versions of pretty much everything and some extra content that was cut because it wouldn't have fit on the cartridge. If anything, it's a game that exists kind of as evidence that these grand plans were a bad idea. Not because the game itself is bad, it's actually pretty good. It's just they had to change course so drastically. And finally, number 1, this is one that we could say is very annoying to the consumer, but very, very good for Nintendo. It's that they don't reduce prices on older games. I personally find this to be ridiculous as somebody who buys their games, but I understand why they do it. It's because they kind of are in a position to do it. Very few publishers have put out the kind of quality they have over the amount of time they have, and people are still willing to pay those prices for it. If you want to play Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, it's full price right now. But if you haven't played it, you probably will pay that. And the reason is because that's the reason you buy the Switch. You buy Nintendo stuff for Nintendo stuff. They do not care that demand goes away over time. They know that the people who want to play it will pay full price. And we do it. We may not like it, but they know their audience. My guess is they probably wish people wouldn't think about it or talk about it. But hey, it sticks out as probably one of the more annoying things that they do. For me anyways. But what do you think? What are some Nintendo mistakes that you think are worth bringing up? Did we mention them? Or is there something that particularly bugs you that we didn't? Leave us a comment, let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe, and don't forget to enable all notifications. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero, and we'll see you next time right here on gameranx.